Krishna Jai 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 Lam रंग भंग बाजे अंग संग मृदंग जय जय रंग रंग भंग बाजे अंग संग मृदंग गाय छे छंद भक्त वृंद आरती तमार गाय छे छंद भक्त वृंद आरती तमार जय जय आरती तमार हर हर आरती तमार शिव शिव आरती तमार खंडन भाव बंधन जाग बंधन वंदे तमाय। जय श्री गुरु महाराज जी की जय। ओम ह्रीं ऋतं त्वमचलो गुणजीवित गुणेभ्यः नक्तं दिवं सकरुणं तव पादपद्मं मोहं कषं बहुकृतं न भजे यतोऽहम् तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो भक्तिर्भगश्च भजनं भवभेदकारी गच्छन्तलं सुविपुलं गमनाय तत्त्वं वक्त्रधृतोऽपि हृदये न मे भाति किञ्चित् तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो तेजस्तरन्ति तरसा त्वयि तृप्त तृष्णा रागे कृते ऋतपथे त्वयि राम कृष्णे मर्त्यामृतं तव पदं मरणोर्मि नाशं तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो कृत्यं करोति कलुषं कुहकान्तकारी श्रान्तं शिवं सुविमलं तव नाम नाथ यस्मादहं त्वशरणो जगदेकगम्य तस्मात् त्वमेव शरणं मम दीनबन्धो ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya Namo Namaha. Om Sarvamangala Mangale Shive Sarvartha Shadhike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Srishti Stiti Vinashanam Shakti Bhute Sanatani Guna Sraye Guna Maye Narayani Namostute. Gato Dinarto Paritran Parayane Sarvas Syarti Hare Devi Narayani Namostute. Jaya Narayani Namostute. Jaya Narayani Namostute. Jaya Narayani Namostute. Jaya Narayani Namostute. Jai Mahamai ki Jai. Jai Bhagawan Sri Ramakrishna Dev ki Jai. Jai Swamiji Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Prakritim paramam abhayam varadam nararupadharam janatapaharam sharanagata sevak doshakari pranamami para janani jagatam gunahina sultan aparadhayutan kripayad samudhar mohagatam taranim bhavasagar parakarim pranamami para शान्तिशुधां इव भृङ्गमनो भवरोगहरां प्रणमामि परां जननीं जगताम्। कृपां कुरु महादेवी श्रुतेषु प्रणतेषु च चरणाश्रयदानेन कृपामयि नमोऽस्तु ते। लज्जापटावृते नित्यं शारदे ज्ञानदायिके पापेभ्यो नाशदा रक्ष कृपामयि नमोऽस्तु ते। रामकृष्णगतप्राणान् तन्नाम श्रवणप्रियां तद्भावरञ्जिताकारं प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। पवित्रं चरितं यस्य पवित्रं जीवनं तथा पवित्रता स्वरूपिण्यै तस्यै कुर्मो नमो नमः। देवीं प्रसन्नां धनतान्त्रिहन्त्रीं योगीन्द्रपूज्यां युगधर्मपात्रीं तां शारदां भक्ति विज्ञानदात्रीं दया स्वरूपां प्रणमामि नित्यं। स्नेहेन बध्नासि मनोस्मदीयं दोषान् शेषान् सगुणीकरोषि आहेतुनानु दयशेषदोषान् स्वान्ते गृहीत्वा यदिदं विचित्रं प्रसीद मातः विनयेन याचे नित्यं भव स्नेहवती श्रुतेषु प्रेमैकबिन्दुं चिरदग्धचित्ते विषिञ्च चित्तं कुरु न सुशान्तम्। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोः श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारि। वर्णौ रघुवर विमल जसु जो दायक फलचारि। बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरौ पवन कुमार। बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर काज करिबे को आतुर, प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया। राम लखन सीता मन बसिया, सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा। विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा, भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे। रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाए संजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हरषि उर लावे। रघुपति कीन्हि बहुत बड़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस वदन तुम्हारो जस गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, शारद शारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा, राम मिलाए राजपद दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु, लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेली मुख माही, जलधि लाभी गए अचरज नाही। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लह तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो आपे, तीनों लोक हाकते कापे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, हरन मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुरभूप सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम 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 जय श्री रामचंद्र जी की जय जय सीता माई की जय जय महावीर स्वामी जी की जय
Hello. Check. Namaste Atirajaya Vivekananda Sure Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So we were discussing this lecture of Vivekananda, Freedom of the Soul, and we started off with this paragraph where he essentially summarizes what is called the Mahavakya in this Chandogya Upanishad, Tattvamasi, and we were trying to understand what exactly that means, yeah, through analysis. Yeah. So the tool, the mental tool that is used for any of this analysis is an introspective analytical intellect, yeah, which analyzes, and that which is found to be lacking in terms of its truth value is discarded. This discarding of something that is not of lasting value that is not of lasting truth value, this discarding is exactly what is called vairagya, and the analysis preceding it is exactly what's called viveka. So these are not supposed to be some abstract pious things, but rather something that is to be executed on a daily basis and in every moment. Yeah, this was so that's the tool, and the final conclusion, so to speak, that one arrives at are what are called these Mahavakyas. This is in a particular tradition. That tradition is what is called the Advaita tradition of Shankara. And there was this extremely nice question, very interesting question that was put forward essentially in the YouTube channel. One gentleman asked, but then this conclusion, we had talked briefly about this scientific criterion called falsifiability last time. I'll say what that is and then go on to answer this particular question. Somebody had asked, but then this particular Vedantic conclusion, Tattvam Asi, or its counterpart, Aham Brahmasmi, these are not falsifiable statements, was what he understood, and he asked me to confirm. That's absolutely correct. These things, if you take them, if you interpret them as conclusions, then neither Aham Brahmasmi nor any of the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi in particular, none of these are falsifiable statements. So in that particular sense, these are not scientific conclusions. But having said that, let's try to understand what exactly the meaning of this word falsifiability is, and why we are separating this out and saying that, look, if you take this as a theory or as a conclusion, then it is not falsifiable. So having given the conclusion, let's try to understand what exactly this means. So what exactly is falsifiability? And this is something that was brought up by Karl Popper, a fairly well-known philosopher of science who worked considerably with logic in the earlier part of the 20th century. So what exactly is falsifiability? You put forward a certain explanation. And again, let me put forward this theory that Einstein had come up with of relativity in the very early 20th century. What it was supposed to do is go one step further from the Newtonian theory of gravity that pre-existed in the 19th century and earlier, and it was supposed to explain something new. What was the key jump that Einstein made was that, look, we have been talking about in philosophical terms of space, time, and causation. What Einstein did is, in one conceptual capsule, he put together space and time first, along with gravity. So the force, the natural force of gravity that exists, that keeps us stuck to this earth, that allows apples to fall, that allows things to fall, that keeps moons in orbits, that macroscopic force from a distance is called gravity. And what Einstein basically formulated was that, look, it should be thought of as something that is intrinsic to the fabric of space-time. What happens is that existence of mass or these massive particles, the sun, the moon, etc., what it does, it bends the fabric of space-time around it, and the shortest paths that are followed in this bent geometry are exactly what are called the shortest path. I mean, they are what we would call straight lines, paths followed by light in the vicinity of the earth. But what he said that, look, these what we are calling straight lines in our usual three-dimensional space, they are a special case of something else where it's the shortest. So for example, let me give an example. So suppose you want to travel on the surface of the earth. So when planes fly, they fly along what are called great circle routes. So you take 2 points, Say, for example, suppose somebody has to fly from Bombay to New York. So you take Bombay and New York as points on the globe. You look at, there is a unique largest circle which bounds a disk which passes through the center of the earth. So these are called great circles. So planes take these routes. So these are not straight lines in our common sense, right? What Einstein's point was that, look, massive objects on this earth bend the geometry of space and time around it, and light follows this shortest path in this bent geometry. Now, this explained an existing anomaly which had not been explained by Newton's gravity, namely that that this planet Mercury, when it moves around the sun, it does not move in a perfect elliptical path. It wobbles a little. It's called the precession of Mercury. And Einstein's theory gave perfect match. It gave a much better explanation of this deviation from the ellipse than that Newton's theory did. So it was a richer theory. It was a deeper theory. But there was something more about it. What it predicted was something that violated people's common sense understanding of the trajectory of light. What was it? The sun is our closest massive body. And so, if you have light coming from stars far away, when they pass close to the sun, Einstein's theory says that the light is going to bend a little bit. The mass of the sun, it's a heavy object, so it's going to warp space-time around it, and therefore the shortest path will not be the straight line as we perceive it, it will be something else. This particular prediction is essentially saying that, look, there is a phenomenon which you can now go ahead and observe. It is counter to our common sense perceptions, but it is making a prediction which can be falsified, which means somebody goes and performs an experiment and then comes back and says, no, the light does not bend, therefore this theory that Einstein has come up with is wrong. This capacity of a theory to predict something which can then be experimentally verified or falsified is what is called falsifiability. And if that's not the case, if a theory does not have that property, it is not a scientific theory. This is a largely well-believed maxim. I mean, this is to be taken with a little bit of salt in the sense that, well, scientific theories, what exactly does observation mean? But that's a different matter altogether. But the upshot here is essentially that a theory predicts something which anybody in principle can then go and with an appropriate experimental setup, verify or falsify. If it goes counter to our common sense understanding, and then there is an experimental observation that says, no, that which was predicted is actually true, then it gives a tremendous boost to that theory. Why? It's basically saying that, look, all of us, this entire species of human beings, before Einstein's theory, we were accustomed to thinking that light travels in straight lines. But his theory says that no, that is only an approximation. If you can observe rays of light coming from distant stars as they pass the sun, they are actually supposed to bend and not travel in a straight line. It means that it is going counter to popular belief. See, science works not according to populist fancies. And this is really where the hard kernel of the scientific endeavor is. It's capable of sticking its neck out by making a prediction, and if it is proven to be false, then that theory is wrong. That's all that there is. If, on the other hand, it goes counter to common sense understanding and makes a prediction that is verifiable or falsifiable, and then one sets up an experimental setup and proves that no, that theory is indeed predicting something that we did not believe in, but now we are seeing as an observation, then that gives a tremendous amount of robustness to a theory. So, this Einstein's, to cut a long story short, this Einstein's theory, it predicted that light would bend. So then the problem was, well, how can we experimentally verify or falsify this? And an expedition was held. Arthur Eddington was in charge. He basically, during an eclipse, see, the thing is, the sun is a very bright object. So distant stars, when the light comes past the sun, it's just going to get covered up by the sun's rays itself. So they had to wait for an eclipse so that the sun's rays would not interfere, and go to a place where the sky was completely clear, so that the impurities in the air and the atmosphere would not disturb the experimental observation. These are very fine observations to many places of decimal. And the observation was made, and then it was turned out that Einstein's prediction was bang on the nose. It is this kind of sticking your neck out, making a prediction that could be counter to the commonly held belief system, but is nevertheless experimentally verifiable or falsifiable. This capacity is what adds robustness to a scientific theory, and it's called falsifiability. Coming back to the topic at hand, are any of these things, this Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, which we have been analyzing for three discussion sessions now, are any of these falsifiable? The answer is no. Why? Because it is not talking about an observable. It is not talking about an observable phenomenon. But does that mean that it is something that is violating a scientific precept? And there the answer is much more subtle. What it is suggesting, and this is what is of relevance to us as practitioners, as experimentalists, if you like. When we hear Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi and we think of this as a doctrine or a dogma or something that is stated to be taken with piety and belief, then we have missed the point altogether. The statement is essentially supposed to provoke in us the grit and energy and vigor of somebody performing an experiment, except that the laboratory where we are doing it is in ourselves, is in our internal psyche. What is the aim and end of all this? As we had said, what is the purpose of all these statements, these Mahavakyas? What it does is it starts with an empirically observed object, or an experimentally observed object, if you like. What is that object? This empirical I. All of us, for all of us conscious beings, we refer to ourselves as I. This is our raw data. What this business, this Tattvamasi and we'll come to other theories later on. What is it supposed to do? It is basically undermining our common sense understanding of this empirical I. We usually have this confused understanding that I am this biological being along with which I am associated. And it then asks, what the Upanishads do, and I'll talk of a very, very contrarian school of thought, which is almost the opposite, but it comes to exactly the same conclusion in a few minutes. What it does is it's really asking, have you investigated this raw datum of this I enough to conclude that you are this confused mixture of this body and mind? It's easy enough to say that, no, I know I am a biological system. But when something, say some chemical reactions happen in the brain, and then sometimes I fall off to sleep, am I aware of that? Am I aware of this third person data that there is something happening in my biological system, and therefore that is what I am? And most of the time that the answer is no. Why? For example, when we fall ill, what do? We go to a doctor, to a medical doctor who understands what that is. What does that doctor do? He takes aspects of our being, namely this biological system, and subjects it to the same scientific paradigms. And then looks, okay, this is a system which has come up and it has evolved over time, over millennia, and it behaves in a certain way, and therefore today it is malfunctioning in this particular way. You add this particular kind of chemical to it, also called a medicine, or sometimes this is something that is a disruption. You just have to remove it, also called surgery, and then the person, the individual, is going to get cured. What is the understanding that is common behind this process of going to a doctor? Is that, look, I am not really the body. I don't understand my body particularly well. So yes, I go around with a confused understanding that, oh, this is what it is. But it is not the final word. So what the Upanishads are saying is that you take this raw datum, don't take it as a given, but analyze it. Don't wait for yourself to fall ill and go to a doctor for this awareness to come up. That, oh no, I am not what this is. Let me just narrate one fairly interesting event which made this thing come up rather starkly, at least in my awareness. So I was traveling abroad, and at some point of time my fingers started paining or scratching terribly. And I had no idea what was going on. So after a few days, after Googling around, it struck me that very likely this is what is called this carpal tunnel syndrome. It's essentially what happens that is that in the wrist there are the nerves that travel through a channel, and then the channel starts getting constricted and it causes a lot of pain. And of course, okay, so then when I came back, we went to the doctor here, just across the road, and I said, look, I have done some Google medical analysis, and well, I think what has happened is this. So our doctor said, yeah, that's possible, but we'll have to actually diagnose it, which means we'll have to run experiments. What is the experiment? Essentially, you put electrodes in various parts of your arm, and then test by giving a mild electric shock to some part and see how fast that electric signal travels through your nerves. So our human body has in it these nerves, which is basically the electrical wiring of the body. Yeah? And what these experiments, the doctors are testing is how fast the electric signal travels along those wires. And if it does not travel fast enough, or if it does not travel appropriately, it means that biological system is malfunctioning. This is exactly that scientific paradigm being applied. And what was happening was that is when they applied that shock, what was happening was that without any effort on my part, there was this muscular twitch that was happening in some part of the palm, basically creating a certain twitching in some other part of the body, with no amount of of mental power or whatever was I going to be able to hold that in place, because it acts according to these physical laws. You apply electricity, it jumps. That's how things function. Again, it's very clear. It makes it very clear that what we, with such great hubris, call our I has nothing whatsoever to do with these things. It's at these moments you basically, it starts clarifying in your awareness that what these people are suggesting through some empirical analysis, it's worth doing. It's worth doing provided one is really interested in getting to the bottom of this raw datum, because our entire world and all our activities depends on this raw datum called this I. And most of the time it is something that is unexamined, uninvestigated, something that we don't spend time analyzing or thinking about. What are these statements like Tattvamasi, etc. doing? It's basically saying that, look, This confused understanding, Shankara has a specific name for this confusion, he calls it adhyasa, is that you have superimposed all these phenomena, including this body and its changes, on that core element which you call conscious, which you call my consciousness, and you are identifying these two things. This identification is called adhyasa. And then, so what is the output of that observation? This, if it is an identification, what needs to be done to get to the bottom of this datum called I is exactly this disidentification, which is what Viveka is about. Analytical analysis and separating out in one's consciousness that with which we have confused our I sense. All right. Again, so therefore, it is precisely this capacity for analyzing and separating out, this capacity for viveka, this is what is summarized in various places in the Upanishads by using this negation, sa esha neti neti atma. What it is asking you to do is analyze and separate out that which you're not. There is the shortest Upanishad, so to speak, the Mandukya, which has exactly 12 verses. Its 7th verse, what does it do? It proceeds along this process of scientific analysis, except that the object of scientific analysis is oneself. There, one's experiences are classified into 3 dockets: experiences during when we are awake, experiences when we are in the dream situations, asleep, and then third, in deep sleep when we are not perceiving anything. These 3 are perceived, and what one is asked to do as an actual exercise is answer the question, what is it in oneself that is common to all these 3 states? And the conclusion is given in beautiful language. It's very poetic, and I can't resist the temptation to say what it is. It's this na anta pragya na bahish pragya na ubhayata pragya na apragya na pragya. So it's na anta pragya. That means it is not when your consciousness is directed towards internal objects, which means basically thought world or the dream world. Na bahish pragya. Nor is it this outward directed consciousness when we say that there is this world around us. Na ubhayata pragya. So nor is it the state when we are half asleep and half awake, which means basically our consciousness is partly directed outwards, partly directed inwards. Na anta pragya na bahish pragya na ubhayata pragya. Na pragyana ghana. Pragyana ghana is when all these awarenesses congeal together in deep sleep. And we say that it is the causal state. It's from there that all these awarenesses, individual awarenesses emerge, and into which they merge again. Na apragya, nor is it an absence of awareness, nor is it awareness, pragya. So it's somehow negating. It's through this negation that we are supposed to come to that which is common to all these 3 states but different from them. It's this capacity of the human mind to abstract out that which is a common feature. And this is a common feature where? In these 3 states: dream, awaking, and deep sleep. What is common to all of this is this principle of consciousness. That's how they are indicating a finger towards it. What is it doing? Is it positing a doctrine? Is it positing a conclusion? Answer is no. And therefore, if you take it as a doctrine or a dogma or a definitive statement not to be analyzed further, one has missed the point entirely. If on the other hand, one takes it as an encouragement to practice this process of analysis, self-analysis. Yeah, this datum called this I or this psychophysical organism, our mind, it's there with us all the time. So, a great opportunity for us to be scientists in that particular sense, where the laboratory is something that we carry about with us all the time, and it is to be analyzed and examined. Okay. So as I said, so this is from one particular point of view, one tradition, the Shankara's Advaita tradition. And I said that we will talk about an absolutely contrarian position, which came about as a kind of a rebellion against the Vedic culture of its time. So I'm referring to the evolution of Buddhism in India, which said that here in so far what we have been talking about, it rests and it takes as some kind of proof that which is there in the Upanishads. So it recognizes or accepts what is called Shabda Praman. Yeah? So it's essentially just as there are certain observations that we have been made, and these what has been recorded there is taken as something which has some truth value prima facie, but it is to be investigated into, and the quality of mind that is required is what is called Shraddha, which means this conviction, there is some truth in this, but it does not mean that there is this conceptual framework that has been fed to me by some other person or something that I have come up with myself, and that's the final word. It is to be constantly examined and analyzed. So it's a dynamic process of analysis or viveka that is being encouraged here. It's a process. What is being said is that, look, you want to get to the bottom of this raw datum called the I. There is a process. People have come to a certain conclusion, but that conclusion cannot be framed in language per se. If you frame it in language and conceptualize it and say that this is all there is, then one has missed the point. However, there's a process that can be followed. That process is a process of scientific analysis. Yeah? So it's a process. As a method, it can be, so these statements should be taken as an encouragement towards executing a scientific analysis, not to be thought about as a scientific conclusion to be verified or falsified. Why? Because at the end of the day, what are we supposed to be doing? We are supposed to be taking this raw datum, which is called the I, and then proceeding with the analysis till we finally come to the conclusion that our common sense understanding of this was just plain wrong. This individuated existence which we had assumed, that assumption was wrong. This particular principle of trying to depersonalize oneself, essentially resolving oneself to the underlying principle of consciousness itself, which is universal, is what Vedantic inquiry is about. Now let's go to, as I said, that look, this is, if one had to rely entirely on some kind of evidence in some class of books, then it would not be a universal human phenomenon. On the other hand, a completely opposite way of analysis, which does not rely on any of these scriptural sources, comes to exactly the same conclusion but states it in very different language. A lot of examination and analysis has gone on, comparing and contrasting what is called the Madhyamaka school. This came about 500 years after the Buddha, and one of the finest philosophers ever, Mula Madhyamaka Karika of Nagarjuna. So Nagarjuna lived in basically the 1st century AD, and he came up with this Mula Madhyamaka Karika, where he put forward what is called the Buddhist Shunyavada. And it's very, very commonly misunderstood as nihilism. It's not. But the key point about it is that it does not depend on scriptural authority. However, it comes to a conclusion that is markedly similar. Where does it differ? It differs in terms of philosophical frameworks. It differs in terms of ontology or epistemology. But what is the purpose of this Madhyamaka way of analysis? Is that it starts off, let me read out this one of these beautiful verses, which basically it's supposed to be a salutation to the Buddha. Here is how it starts. Sarva drishti prahanaya yah sat dharmam adeshayet. Sarva drishti prahanaya. What is the meaning here? It's basically saying that if you have conceptualized reality, any kind of worldview which reduces reality to a concept, to a bunch of words, so to speak, to a language, it has missed the point. So Sat Dharmam Adeshet, meaning basically what is being encouraged is this analysis. Now let us get into this, and we'll try to compare and contrast these two, both non-dual philosophies. One which depends on or which adduces the Upanishads as a source or as a proof. The other does not. Through pure analysis, it comes to exactly the same conclusion. So again, and we'll now start for the remaining time. We'll try to contrast these two approaches and see how, in practice, in terms of the actual scientific analysis done, they are following extremely parallel paths. So this is the probably the finest piece of writing in the Madhyamaka tradition, the Mula Madhyamaka Karika of Nagarjuna, written 6 centuries or more before Shankara, and the Gaudapada Karika, which is probably regarded as the first major work of Advaita recorded. Its 4th section, what's called the Alatshanti Prakarana, it borrows heavily from this kind of analysis, or the structure of the analysis that Nagarjuna gave. So there is a considerable influence of Nagarjuna on on subsequent developments, particularly the development of Advaita. So here is another shloka which again emphasizes the point. It says, Shunyata sarvadrishtinam prokta nihsaranam jinaihi yesham tu shunyata drishtita nasadhyan babhashire. Shunyata sarvadrishtinam. Again, what is it saying? It's saying basically that, look, you take as given all these various worldviews. We take as given this reality of this physical world. What is being said is that there is no real essential truth in that view, which means if it is subjected to this powerful inward directed intellect called Viveka, then through this analysis, it will expose the emptiness or the insubstantiality, the lack of substance of this view. Yeah? There is a Vedantic that has an exact Vedantic counterpart. It's exactly what is called Jagat Vityatva. Gamyate iti Jagat. That which moves around is what is called Jagat. That which is moving, impermanent, is what is called Jagat. Yeah? Upanishads have passages that abound in favor of this kind of interpretation. Shvobhava martyasya yadanta kaitat sarvendriyanam jarayanti teja. Yeah? Kathopanishad. And what is the upshot of that? It is supposed to encourage some kind of doing, some kind of thinking, feeling, willing simultaneously. What is it? That all these things to which we attach ourselves and say that, look, my identity is by identifying myself with such and such things, it is false. It is not something that withstands analysis. That is the upshot of this Vedantic process, what is called Jagat Mithya. And the Buddhist or the Madhyama counterpart of that is exactly what is called Shunyata. Yeah? All right. However, yeah, so it's basically this brings us back to what we were discussing last time, that narrative and dogma and doctrine, these are impediments. There are obstacles to the understanding of truth. If one is after truth, then one should be prepared to take all kinds of doctrines and dogmas and narratives and throw them overboard. Not by some kind of nihilism, but by examining them carefully and seeing that these stories that we have made up to lull our mind into, Hindi mein kehte hai, dil behlane ke liye. So this capacity that we have of lulling ourselves into a non-alert mode, that is supposed to be thrown out. Yeah? It's this purpose. When we take something at face value and do not ask questions of it, not asking questions of it just for the sake of it, but for the ascertaining of the truth content, when we do not do this, then that is called pramada. In another place, Sanat Sujatiya Shankara says that pramada, this forgetfulness of this alertness, is exactly what is mrityu. That is what death is about. Yeah? This self-forgetfulness, this alertness not being maintained is what death is about. Coming closer home, in the introductory passage to the Raja Yoga, Vivekananda remarks, it's a passage which many of us have heard of and very often we parrot it without thinking. It's got something rather profound in it. It says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. By one or more or all of these, and be free. No path being given particular preference. Why? Because different human beings have different mental constitutions. They'll adopt paths which are adapted to their temperament. And therefore, work, worship, psychic control, philosophy, whatever floats your boat is fine. Conclusion. What is the end game? And be free. Free from what? Free from this mistaken notion of our I, which is why this I needs to be investigated into. This empirical I is in bondage. This is the I cannot fly if I want to. Yeah? And it's this physical limitations of me being bonded to this physical entity which I am calling my I. That is where freedom is about. Yeah? That's what freedom is. And then be free. And then this key statement. This is the whole of religion. No doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. Therefore, it's precisely these doctrines, dogmas, rituals, books and temples as a covering of this core internal pursuit that constitute organized religions. Then they become social constructs and they create a lot of trouble and a lot of anger and hatred and fear and fighting in the world. That which was supposed to be something that was essential, that was universal in the species at least, that was supposed to answer fundamental questions about ourselves, then becomes a tool for spreading anger and hatred with others. It has people who do that have absolutely missed the point altogether. And this particular statement here by Vivekananda is emphatic. By one or more or all of these and be free. Which one? Understand your temperament and go to whatever is suitable to your own temperament. And then This is all of what religion is. This is what religion is as a science or as an art. Not the organized trappings, not Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, none of that. This seeking of freedom is something that is common to the species, at least, perhaps to all beings. And this is the whole of religion. Religion is a science. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. And when we fix our attention on the secondary details, forgetting the primary purpose, that is, there cannot be a greater tragedy than that. Why? Because that which would have gotten us to the core of our beings, the noblest aspect of our beings, is now being traded or being put into a package. It's like taking gold and putting it inside some rubbish dump. Yeah? And then the rubbish dump starts covering it, and people start fighting about, my rubbish dump is better than your rubbish dump. What has happened? The gold has been lost sight of. This is the point here. I'll conclude with a similar passage from Sri Ramakrishna's Kathamrita. And he says, essentially what he is talking about here is, again, it's in Bengali, I'll read it out in Bengali, then I'll translate. And what he is basically talking about is that this fighting about my religion versus your religion is a nonsensical pursuit. It's a pointless pursuit. All that it does is it covers our heads and our hearts with feelings and emotions which can only serve to differentiate another from me. And it goes counter to the central thrust, which is the seeking of freedom and unity with all existence. So here is the passage. Dekho, Amrito Shagore Jabar Ananto Path. To this ocean of immortality, there are infinitely many paths. যে কোনো প্রকারে এ সাগরে পড়তে পারলেই হলো. All that is required is to fall into this ocean. মনে করো অমৃতের একটি কুণ্ড আছে. Assume that there is this vessel of immortality. কোনো রকমে এই অমৃত, this source of immortality, একটু মুখে পড়লেই অমর হবে. If it goes, a little bit of it goes inside our system, swalpam api apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. It's in the Gita. একটু মুখে পড়লেই অমর হবে. তা তুমি নিজে ঝাঁপ দিয়েই পড়ো, whether you jump into that pot yourself, বা সিঁড়িতে আস্তে আস্তে নেমে একটু খাও, or if you come down a staircase and take a little bit of it, বা কেউ তোমায় ধাক্কা মেরেই ফেলে দিই, or if somebody pushes you, just gives you a push and you fall into it. What he is saying here is that in this very simple, colloquial village style, what he is basically saying is that, look, instead of wasting our time and energy, we have a limited lifespan, instead of wasting that in trying to say that, no, my doctrine is better than your doctrine, my philosophy is better than your philosophy, and at the end of it, no conclusion arrived at. What is the upshot? It's been a complete waste of time and mental energy. Instead of wasting your time and mental energy behind these completely fruitless pursuits, focus on the job at hand, and the job at hand is this sharp, focused internal inquiry, which is why it is to be done in the here and now, not in some pious post-mortem future. It is to be done in the here and now, and the conclusion is to be arrived at as human beings while we are living. I'll stop there. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanastu.